Hakuna Matata. What a wonderful phrase. Hakuna Matata. Ain't no passing craze.
It means no worries for the rest of the day.
Yes, sing it, kid. It's our problem-free philosophy. Hakuna Matata.
Felt it very appropriate to start today's Wire2Wire fantasy baseball chat with that song. This is Tim Heaney from RotoWire. Wanted to celebrate and wish you a happy Hakuna Matata day. Ronald Acuna finally joining the Major League roster tonight, batting sixth for the Atlanta Braves. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We'll talk about some more injury updates with Thames, Kris Bryant. So many more things on the docket today for the fantasy baseball Wire2Wire chat. Now you have a couple things that a couple games going on now as well. We could talk about that a little bit. This is a big deal that we're kind of rolling with today with the prospects coming up finally to the Atlanta Braves and being eligible to be in fantasy baseball lineup. So let's just get to that right away. Ronald Acuna for the Braves, like I said, batting sixth tonight. Computer's taking a little bit of time to go up here. But the Atlanta Braves tonight are facing. Hang on one second, guys. And of course, my neighbor decides to be noisy right now too, so that's fantastic. Always great there. Braves are facing the Reds tonight. So you have Brandon Finnegan against Ronald Acuna tonight. That should be a pretty fun matchup there, right? Brandon Finnegan for the Reds, pretty noisy right now. Pretty able to be hit, I should say, right now. It's a pretty nice landing spot for Acuna to make his first major league start. Great American Ballpark being as homer friendly as it is against a pitcher that's kind of given up a lot of runs in his time here. 11.05 ERA this year already. The day's finally come. It's good to kind of, being able to put him in your lineup now. To expectations the rest of the season, you do want to be a little bit careful with what you want out of him for the rest of this year. It's good for his value that he came up this early in the year. The Braves were smart about it. They wanted to kind of wait a little bit long so they can have more team control over him, which is a smart thing to do in this flawed system of major league prospects. Now it's something you have to address, even if it's not the best decision in the world. Your fans, they know that Acuna is the guy to deserve to get the start early in the year. But to play around and game a system that isn't great, you have to do stuff like this, like the Cubs did with Kris Bryant and all that. So, and the Phillies, I guess, this year already did with Scott Kingery, but he actually came up on opening day, so it's not even applying here. But Acuna is. His ceiling is immense for the long term. I have a piece of him in an only keeper league, not a dynasty league. It's a keeper league. I will have to get rid of him at some point because you keep him for 1 year, you keep him for 2 years as soon as you activate him, and then you have to buy out his contract. I'm sure you guys know how it works. Not going to bore you. The bat speed is incredible for a kid his age, 20 years old or 21, I believe, one of those. Great speed. The Braves lineup should be developing into something pretty special over the coming years. They have a pretty good core of prospects going and youngish talent among the regulars now, including, Freddie Freeman, of course, being the centerpiece of that. But it's a good long-term setup for Acuna to really establish the hype that he's met already. Hard contact is always a big deal with him. His ability to take a walk is pretty good, and his speed, of course, is game changing. So a good combination of skills there as a long-term, top 50 type of fantasy player. Will he amount to all of that this year? I don't think so. I think that the strikeout problems, are gonna pile up for someone young his young age. I think expecting the ceiling this year is a real big mistake. I think you have to gauge what you need him to offer you. I think you have to, kind of start out with a baseline for a full season of, 10 home runs, 10 stolen bases. I think that's the easiest way for him to help you is the power speed combo. I think they'll let him steal as soon as he gets up. Although if he bats six, every day, that might kind of hinder his chances to take bases because the lower you get in a batting order in the National League, it's a little testy how much you'll actually be given the opportunity to run, especially for a recent call-up making your first major league action. So if 10 homer, 10 stolen baseline over the rest of the season is a good start. Contact skills, like I said, the strikeouts will be there, but also the hard contact's going to be there. So you have kind of a mix of, you want maybe, like a 260 baseline and a batting average, 330, 340 OBP if you're looking for the top part of his game this year. And slugging percentage will probably be there. I mean, his, spring training kind of proved that he has that ability to drive the ball on a consistent basis. Although he'll be facing major league talent on the mound now and not, mop up guys or minor leaguers trying to make a team or something like that with favorable conditions in spring training, allowing the ball to travel further. So the excitement is justified because it's a prospect we've been talking about for so long. You do want to have tempered expectations. I tweeted about this with my ESPN colleague Derek Carty about it, and we kind of talked about. He mentioned that this is you're not paying the freight for a full expectation of his ceiling right now. I think there's going to be a lot. He said there's going to be a lot of OBP and batting average trouble, and I'm not writing that off for sure. I wanted to remind him that in certain deeper leagues, you're not going to find someone with at least the upside of like 60% of what he can offer on the waiver wire. So, in those 15 team and deeper mixed leagues, activating Acuna is a big victory in itself just because you have the potential increase from deeper parts of your lineup. And only you're of course excited because he's a centerpiece for your long-term planning there. Single season, long-term, single season, and only, excitement's a little bit less because you'll have to give him up next year, but it's still this early call-up is pretty profitable, I think, in most circumstances because people were uncertain of when the Braves would actually pull the trigger on it. The fact that you're going to get 5 months out of him and if you paid like $15 or something, only that's a really big victory for you. So all in all, a pretty good outlook for him getting called up on April 25th. So I really like the potential here. Like I said, I'm going to bet on 10 homers, 10 stolen bases and up for each. Power being the safer category, stolen bases, depends on if he can move up in the order eventually. And it's possible because, guys like Nick Markakis might move down, that sort of thing. I think if you can expect like top 100 in a mixed league performance as his ceiling for this year, I think you'll be safe. If you're expecting the top prospect type pedigree to shine through immediately, I'm not going to roll with that. So be careful with what you expect, but I think we're going to be enjoying ourselves with most of what he's going to be offering. So I'm very happy to see what's coming. Very good news there. I'm going to shift to a little bit of bad news right now. And staying with the National League, the Brewers have a big injury to deal with here. Eric Thames, I made a diving play on Tuesday. Left the game with an injury. It turns out he has a torn UCL in his left thumb. That's a hefty injury. He'll probably miss about a month at minimum with that. Thumb's pretty important to things. I believe he throws right-handed, but it's still, of course, a big deal for batting. UCL in your thumb. Of course, not the UCL and Tommy John surgery. That sounds bad, but it's still a very important part of your thumb, and you have to let it heal. So I would expect it to be out for about a month at this point. I think that we can expect the Brewers to, have enough to cover him a little bit here. The logjam we've talked about with Milwaukee this year very much was a proponent of why it was a little bit uncertain to draft these guys in the preseason. You had Christian Yelich and Lorenzo Cain's arrival, two definite starters there, and then you had Ryan Braun, and then the Domingo Santana breakout continuation we would have to wait on because he wasn't going to get much playing time with those developments. Eric Thames sat against a lot of lefties, but now Jesus Aguilar is kind of coming on as an option, at least as the bottom side of the platoon. But it looks like now with this injury, he's going to be the starter at first base. The Brewers really wanting to ride that hot streak as much as possible. There's a good bat here. I'm a little skeptical, but I think there's enough there to like really be that type of really desirable free agent pickup as a corner infielder in a 15-team mixed league, for instance. So I am excited to, I grabbed him in that same league I have Acuna, and I think that there's potential to have him be at least a utility player in deeper mixed leagues at this point because he's got some power to him, and he hits the ball hard enough for his batting average could run hot in a lot of ways. So, do you want to bank much time on him after Thames comes back? Not really. But I think for the next month, he's got a pretty good shot to have regular playing time. So they'll probably have Braun rest at first base here and there, once a week. I think they'll probably play there still. I do think this, I still want to stash Domingo Santana in a lot of places just because the batted ball StatCast numbers are great. Young enough where there's still a lot of budding power. Another injury, and then Santana's going to have a bigger role, and that could be something there. So I think Aguilar is a short-term guy you want right now. He's the one that's going to offer you the most playing time at the moment. He's going to be the one to kind of deliver the Band-Aid right now for whatever you need, especially in NL only. He's the one where you want to kind of get that security right now. But you should still kind of be aware of the upside Santana provides if he can kind of sneak into a little bit more at-bats right now. So I think I still want to roll with that. And Santana, if he can somehow get more playing time, there's more upside with him. But like I said, the safer floor right now for playing time is Aguilar. So Brewers, they have the pieces to kind of cover this loss, but for fantasy, it's still kind of a conundrum, even with the news that Aguilar is already confirmed to be the starter out of the gate at first base with the injury. So we'll have more coverage on that on RotoWire over the coming days and weeks. Kris Bryant still sidelined after being hit by the pitch in his helmet and head over this past weekend. Still not in the lineup Wednesday. Not surprising. I think they want to take their time with this one. And, weekly lineups, you're probably not going to get much of Kris Bryant this week. I'd be surprised if they activated him at this point before the weekend. The Cubs have enough depth where they can let one of their stars rest and kind of fill the gap in there. So, the early season, conservative play that a lot of teams are managing right now. It's the way that you want to have that. You're trying to get kind of play this as it comes. Hopefully you're in a place where you're not desperate to have Kris Bryant playing right now. Give it a few days, see what the outcome is with the rest, and we'll see what happens there. Adrian Beltre also goes on the disabled list for the Rangers. That just came in a little while ago to the RotoWire news service here. If you're not a member, just you got to join just because of the news service here. We offer you all the fantasy tips there along with the news, and you get the tips if you're a subscriber. So that's the important thing there to realize. So, Drew Robinson is probably going to be the regular starter at third baseman. Starter at second base with Beltre out. It looks like Isaiah Kiner-Falefa will be the third baseman for Beltre moving forward. Robinson gets the upgrade, and then you have Rougned Odor coming back in the next few days or week, so that might be short-lived a little bit. The Rangers have to shuffle a little bit of things with their infields anyway because of the Elvis Andrus injury, but Jurickson Profar is going to be the direct beneficiary for the next month or so. So I'm not all that excited about the direct replacement for Beltre right now among this picture because Kiner-Falefa is kind of like just a body right now with a little bit less offensive upside than we want at a position as important as third base or corner infield. So, Robinson gets the temporary boost in playing time. I'm not too excited about it, but AL only probably going to have to throw some nominal bids on some of these guys and just kind of get those at bats if you can. If someone outbids you and goes like double digits on one of these guys out of $100 cap, tip your cap and let it go. I think you can find better guys in this down the road. So fluid situation, not that much of a ceiling for playing time because you still got Odor coming back. So it's not something I'm all that excited for fantasy purposes for. For the Cardinals, it looks like Bud Norris is available to pitch out of the bullpen Wednesday. He had a little bit of arm soreness last night, but it looks like he's going to be okay. I think it might have, they're saying it's just kind of a short-term thing. It looks like he's saying he's over it right now. You want to say that, you want to maybe handcuff him with Greg Holland if someone gave up in your league and dropped him. Norris isn't the biggest picture of health. He's had some injuries in the past and kind of worn down late in the season as a reliever, but all things neutral, he's still the closer here for the Cardinals. So I think that Norris being as good as he's been lately, he had a little bit of a setback recently, but he actually worked through that, allowing that run to get a save. Norris has a nice little leash on him, I think, as long as he's healthy. But of course, if you want to play the Norris-Holland game and handcuff the two of them, it's a clear hierarchy at this point because Holland being the guy they paid so much money for, he's looking a little bit better lately. So yeah, I think it's an okay move to make if you're really just kind of looking to play off this illness here. Jose Abreu left today's game with an illness. Just trying to get a little bit more of a read on that right now. Abreu's been pretty steady this year. He had a 2-homer game. I believe it was last night or the night before. Matt Davison replaced him at first base. Looks like Abreu's going to be day-to-day. Flu-like symptoms is what we're getting on the report for Abreu. So, might be a couple days here and there for him that he might be absent for. So don't worry too much about it. We'll see what happens with that. A little bit more of a top news here. Byron Buxton will not return to extended spring training games Wednesday. Comes from Rhett Bollinger of MLB.com. Managed to hit off a tee Wednesday, but he's apparently still not feeling enough to return to game action. So, that's a detail I didn't want to hear. Bollinger added, the team medical staff had to drill into Buxton's left big toe to relieve the pressure in it after he suffered the injury. I didn't realize that happened. That seems like it's something you want to rest a little bit longer. I'm not rushing Buxton back at this point. I think that I have to give him at least another week for this to kind of play itself over. I think he'll need a rehab assignment to prove that he can actually run on that foot. So ouch. That's Byron Buxton was one of our big breakout candidates this year for justifiable reasons. I think the changes he made to his swing kind of gave him a little bit more upside to go along with the great speed, but yeah, going to have to be patient with this one as well. Josh Donaldson is moving to long toss and is going to be required to throw across the diamond before embarking on a rehab assignment. It's a safe move by the Blue Jays considering he had those dead arm troubles earlier in the year. Coming out of spring training, he's had trouble making throws from third base. That's a club that can't afford to have him DH every day because Kendrys Morales' bat kind of gets wasted in that. You want to have Donaldson play the field a bit more because he is a good defensive third baseman normally. So might be a couple days there at least coming back. So yeah, it's the 30-something guys, they have these dings and they kind of they kind of stretch out a little bit longer than we like to have. So it's kind of a big deal there. Blake Trinan of the A's, the closer, he took a comebacker to the shin Tuesday night. Looks like he's going to be okay. I think looks like he's going to be ready here. He might not take the mound tonight just to get a couple of days. Might be Santiago Casilla, getting that save opportunity here. So the Athletics, playing it safe makes sense. Trine has been really good this year. A little bit of a whip situation, happens to have some closers, but he's has the good 150 ERA with 3 saves and 5 opportunities. I'm surprised he actually had that money blown saves, but he's still the best guy to own in that bullpen when healthy. So if you want to get the Santiago Casilla there, maybe if just to play the chance that Trina doesn't come back immediately, maybe you can get like a week's worth of the roll out of Casilla, but don't go too crazy there. Orlando Arcia, a little bit of a rough start to the season. He's back in the lineup Wednesday, hitting 9th and playing shortstop. Ankle and illness were keeping him out. Stomach issue, ankle injury last week. So it's okay to kind of roll him back in there moving forward. So yeah, it's the time of year when we're going to start to see some injuries pile up. Okay, and then let's take a spin through some of these early games right now. We got a lot of things happening here. Big development in the Angels-Astros game. Justin Verlander was brilliant. It's not really a surprise considering how he started this year. Just another great outing for him. Allowed 2 runs on 4 hits while striking out 9 in 7 innings. That's Verlander's just he's been one of the best pitchers in baseball right now. The more interesting development there is that Ken Giles got the save. I believe it was a clear inning. I believe, yeah, it was a 1-2-3 inning there. So let me check. Yeah, faced the minimum, struck out 1. Good sign for Giles. He had kind of given way to Chris Davinsky and Brad Peacock a little bit here and there. Davinsky actually pitched the 8th inning ahead of him, so this might be a sign that Giles looks like he's getting the job back. So if somehow someone drops Ken Giles in your league, go for it. I still think there might be a split element to this, depending on the situation. Davinsky might come in for some 9th innings or something like that. So I still think Giles, Davinsky, and Peacock are all worth owning for the Astros, but this might not be the case every day. It's just good to have Giles be back in the mix for saves, even though it's going to be probably a mix of 3 for saves at this point. Although you might want to argue that Giles, if he can get right, is the majority guy of those 3. He might get like 50% of the save chances, and the other 2 split the other 50 moving forward if they want to keep that arrangement, because Davinsky's still worth owning in leagues just because of his great ability to eat 2 innings, and Peacock's the same way, the former starter. So the Astros are working with their real-life bullpen. I think we have to adjust as fantasy owners to that and knock Giles' save expectations down a bit, but still keeping him as the number 1 option. So I think that's the way to go there. The aforementioned, let's take a spin around the box score a little bit here. That's something to talk about. Nick Tropiano was actually, he didn't do so well. There 4 earned runs and 5 1/3 on 4 hits, 3 walks allowed, but he struck out 6, so there's something to that. Tropiano being part of that, the Angels rotation of 6 men. Coming back from Tommy John surgery this year, I'm sure they want to kind of manage him a little bit delicately. He might not go that deep into too many games. But there's a lot of strikeout potential there. I like that if you can kind of muster the rest of the struggles he might have. So, yeah, it's a good deal there. Jose Altuve hit his first home run of the season. Kind of crazy that it took him this long, the number 1 or number 2 overall pick. Mostly number 2 overall pick in most fantasy leagues. He's batting .333, but he hadn't homered yet. It's a big deal. Good development there for his owners. I think that'll pick up, sooner rather than later here. And then you have Albert Pujols homering, his 5th of the year. The power's not surprising, hitting .257. He's going to have to expect those batting average dips with him for sure. Alex Bregman had a 3 RBI game. It's a nice development for him a little bit. He's kind of hasn't been making too much noise this year so far. So, yeah, the owners of him are looking at this as an okay situation. Jumping to the Mariners White Sox game, as mentioned before, Jose Abreu did leave. Matt Davidson slides over at first base. This might be the key to getting him first base eligibility in some leagues this year, if he can kind of sub in for Abreu for a few games. Because the White Sox like Yolmer Sanchez at third base. I think his defense is keeping him in the lineup. So Davidson, maybe if he can get 5 games subbing for Abreu this year, that could be helpful to his value here. Tim Anderson again went 2 for 4 with an RBI. He's had a nice little breakout to start the year. Yohan Moncada, I have a lot of shares of Yohan Moncada this year. 5th home run of the year for him. Off Felix Hernandez. It's kind of a good game for him. He's had a little bit of a good start. More so OBP leagues and batting average because he strikes out a lot still. But he struck out 3 times today, in fact. But I like where the potential is there. If he can justify the low batting average there, he'll be useful. Mike Zunino hit his 2nd home run for the Mariners. Good sign there. Felix Hernandez put up a quality start. 6 innings, 300 runs, 2 walks, 7 hits, 6 strikeouts. Not a bad line for him. 63 of his pitches, 95 pitches were strikes. That's not a terrible ratio there. Let's see the a little bit of the velocity reports here, but Felix is an interesting ad here. Not ad, but maybe Deep League Waiver Wire can kind of look at this as, all right, maybe it's a reason to stash him and not start him right away. I want to see a little bit more from him to get too excited about that. So, yeah, I think it's the best way to kind of go about that. More positive development is John Gray for the Rockies. Better home pitcher than road pitcher last year. Kind of like what you had to see today from him. 6 scoreless innings, 11 strikeouts, 3 hits and 1 walk allowed to the Padres. Of course, the Padres, a better matchup than most teams. So, John Gray, it's a very positive development there. That he had this great of an outing. Either way, kind of helped his ERA a little bit for sure. And the fact that he came back to the trend of pitching better at home is always a good thing. So, Manny Margot had an RBI today. Padres really didn't do much to be excited about. Tyson Ross kind of came back to earth a bit after his hot start. He had 127 pitches, I think, in his start this weekend, and looked a bit sluggish. So I think that's to be expected after having that many pitches and a guy that normally walks a lot of guys, nibbles a bit too much. So, it might be good to get him back to earth like this and kind of expect that, not amazing outings every time moving forward. So if you didn't sell Tyson Ross, you're probably too late. But anyway, back to the Rockies lineup a little second. Just want to jump in. David Dahl had 2 RBI. I believe he had a triple in there today. So that's pretty solid. Trevor Story with another RBI. He's 19 on the year already. That's a heck of a comeback story this season. Ryan McMahon got another start, went 2 for 2 with 2 walks. The Rockies, you hope the Rockies can keep this trend up, that David Dahl and Ryan McMahon are going to be in the lineup moving forward most days, because the Carlos Gonzalez injury, the Gerardo Parra suspension, kind of preventing that from happening right now. It would be best for them to kind of I guess, leave Gerardo Parra as a 4th outfielder if David Dahl keeps hitting like this. They would be smart if they did give him the chance. I'm not confident they will. But at least part-time, I think you have to have Dahl on most mixed league teams right now in fantasy leagues. So Ryan McMahon kind of creeping up behind as well. I think he might be more vulnerable to lose work to Ian Desmond at first base if David Dahl does climb into more action. But, it's positive that they're giving the young guys a try with this situation. So worth buying both these guys to some degree in mixed leagues. I think Dahl is the better buy than McMahon right now. So going to be interesting to see how the Rockies, kind of develop things there. Jameson Taillon of the Pirates having a rough go of it today. Coming back to earth a bit in his 2 starts after his dynamic beginning to the season. I've been good on Taillon, but I think most people were a bit higher than I am because the strikeout ceiling hasn't really manifested as anything great to me. He's got the fine control to work with. He, in fact, didn't walk anybody today, but he only lasted 3 2/3 innings and gave up 10 hits and 7 earned runs to the Tigers. That's disconcerting, especially in a home start. I think that this might bring him back down to where I actually want to buy him again because he got a 4.91 ERA on the season now. I think his shareholders might be more willing to trade him in mixed leagues. And now you might want to catch the ride on the comeback here to the positive regression after this. So this is actually a good development if you want to invest in Taillon for the rest of the year. I think this kind of maybe eases the expectation on what he'll deliver for you. And, like a 7.5 K9 is better when there's like a 1 walk per 9 type of rate going with it. So now, will the Pirates help him win a lot of games? Probably not. But his approach, if he can get things right, is cohesive to letting him go deep into games. So that can help his wins anyway. So maybe use this as an opportunity to buy low on Taillon. I wouldn't necessarily, like I said, make him an ace in any format, but still a guy that I think there's a little bit of a bright future for. So now that we've kind of calmed down on him, I do want to kind of invest in him again. So it's kind of funny how that works. You have to adjust your expectations in the middle of a season when kind of the market swings one way on a player. You should sometimes go the other way to kind of take advantage of vulnerabilities that people overestimate or underestimate somebody. So I think Taillon, we had a really violent swing from, he's going to become an ace now to, okay, now this might be a bump in the road where, I could probably sell him for something better. So see what his shareholders looking at right there. If the Taillon owner is kind of really panicking after these 2 games, maybe take advantage and kind of get back to a little bit of what he was doing early in the year. So use stuff like that to kind of see where you can kind of get some value on some of these people. For the Pirates still going on right now, Colin Moran homered and Francisco Cervelli homered off a left hand. That's not surprising. So Leonis Martin, James McCann, oh my God, Nick Castellanos and Heimer Candelario all homered today. Pirates had 4 homers a game. I hope you didn't. Hope one of the hopefully in those deep leagues where you have one of these guys, it's actually helping you. And then another one that kind of bit me a little bit, Jeff Samardzija getting blown up by the Nationals right now. He left the game already, gave up 6 earned runs in 3 2/3 innings. Samardzija is one of those guys that you really were just kind of hoping is going to be a good innings leader, and he's being eaten alive right now by his opponents. The Nationals having a big day on their hands right now. Matt Adams, Trey Turner, Andrew Stevenson, the guys, one of them's a household name that's actually helping, but not many other ones are starting the other people. And yeah, it's crazy how, these guys like the Andrew Stevens of the world and Matt Adams are putting up numbers against decent pitching like Samardzija. But either way, I mean, it's a weirdness that kind of toys with DFS and daily fantasy transaction leagues. So yeah, that's kind of all the action right now. I think I'm going to call that today. Thank you for the couple of you that joined in, hoping to make this a more weekly standardized thing on Wednesday nights at 6 p.m. I want to get this wire-to-wire thing going a little bit. Do your best. Subscribe to RotoWire. We do have a lot of other live videos. We have Chris Liss and Dalton Del Don's podcast is streamed live, or at least they have a taped live stream of them actually recording the podcast on video. So you have that to look forward to. MMA fans, we have, although there's a bit of a break coming up right now, we're going to have, when it starts back up in May, we're going to have that, the Fight IQ chats every Friday night, previewing the events. And you can catch other fantasy baseball stuff on RotoWire here. You can follow me at Tim_Heaney on Twitter. You can follow us at RotoWire. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/RotoWire, or just search RotoWire while you're on Facebook. I'm on the podcast for fantasy baseball every Tuesday with Derek Van Riper. You can catch those every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. All have a podcast that day. Mine drops about every Tuesday afternoon around 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. So you can make sure you join in there. Just, we're trying to make this a thing. There's less things that come up early in the season that you have questions about probably, but we're hoping that, we want to get this video chat going a bit more to questions. So every Wednesday night, 6 p.m., join me, Fantasy Baseball Wire-to-Wire chat here on RotoWire.com. Subscribe, follow me on Twitter at Tim_Heaney, all of that stuff. So thank you so much for joining me tonight, and enjoy the rest of the evening.